Today, I want to talk about taking a true story and putting it into a film. Now, a lot of people like to make films based on true stories. There's a lot of books based on true stories, and they're not necessarily exact to what happened. Because in order to make a story arc, you have to condense things down. You have to jump time sometimes. Sometimes there's too many characters in somebody's story, so you have to bring them closer together, maybe take a bunch of characters and turn them into one character. Sometimes that works well, sometimes it doesn't. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of films, one where it really works, one where it doesn't really work. So Schindler's List is a film that works well in using those devices, right? So Schindler is a man who saved a lot of Jewish lives during World War II through the Holocaust. They were people that worked for him, and he made sure they made it through the war. He got them out of concentration camps when they were rounded up, and he made sure that they were just sort of on a protected list. His list. But the story in the film makes it a perfect story arc about him, right? There's very much a beginning, a middle, and an end. And nobody's life is exactly like that. Even in a time period, it's not exactly like that. And he saved many lives. So if you watch that film at the end, you'll see the characters, the actors walk out with their real life counterparts. And sometimes they're walking with two people. And that's because they took two people's experiences and combined them into one character. Or they didn't cover everybody that he saved, and they focused on certain people and certain families and people that you could connect to and get to know and be rooting for, even though he saved many, many, many lives. That worked well, and it made a point about this man and paid tribute to him. And there's actually a great documentary made by the BBC, I believe, about him that goes more into the specific lives he saved. But overall, they stuck with what he did. They didn't make stuff up. They condensed, they crafted, they molded, but they didn't change it. But then you look at a film like Hidden Figures, which I think is a good film, and I like that film, and I think that's a good film to watch, especially for young people. But Hidden Figures is about Katherine Johnson, who was a Black scientist who worked for NASA. And the problem with that film is that in order to condense it and make it work and give it this storyline, they added a white savior character. And that's a device, right? You put in another character sometimes to make a film flow better, to fill in gaps where maybe you have little pieces that just need to be kind of tightened up because you don't have time for a 7-hour film. But by making that character a white savior, it took away from the accomplishments of a Black woman. And that's where it went awry. Now, that's not to discount the film. Again, it's a nice film, but it's just an example how you really need to think it through. Because like in Schindler's List, they combined some of these Jewish characters together, these real people, I should say, together into characters. But they didn't change the overall story or accomplishments or give credit to someone who didn't exist or didn't exist in a certain capacity. So that's something you need to be careful about because it takes away from the film. Like you can look at Hidden Figures and that could have been a great film, but there's a lot of controversy around it because of the white savior character they added in. Doesn't mean you shouldn't see it? Not at all. But it does point out that we still have a ways to go.